Albania was a very isolated country for many years. Its leader, Enver Hoxha, ruled with an iron fist and didn't trust outsiders. He kept Albania separate from the rest of the world and made strange and harsh rules. This video looks at how Hoxha's government worked, his strange ideas, and how they affected the people of Albania till today. Albania's story is similar to North Korea's and shows what can go wrong when a country is too isolated and controlled. Before we go any further, quickly like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Albania, a small country in southeastern Europe, has a complex history of being controlled by foreign powers. Two of the most significant powers to control Albania were the Ottoman Empire and Italy. The Ottoman Empire, which was one of the largest and most powerful empires in history, controlled Albania from the 14th to the 20th century. During this time, the Ottomans imposed their language, religion, and customs on the Albanian people. They also exploited Albania's natural resources and forced the Albanians to pay heavy taxes. In 1912, Albania declared its independence from the Ottoman Empire, but it was soon occupied by Italy during World War I. Italy controlled Albania from 1918 to 1920, and again from 1939 to 1943 during World War II. Italy's control over Albania was particularly harsh, as they sought to assimilate the Albanian people into Italian culture. They also suppressed the Albanian language and culture and persecuted anyone who resisted their rule. Enver Hoxha's regime, which started after the Italian occupation and lasted from 1944 to 1985, was a period of strict authoritarian rule in Albania. Hoxha, who was the country's communist leader, exercised total control over every aspect of life in Albania, from the economy to education, media, and even people's personal lives. Enver Hoxha's government was characterized by a strict nationalist ideology, which emphasized Albanian culture and history. He promoted a cult of personality, where he was portrayed as the great leader and savior of the Albanian people. His regime was also marked by strict control over the media, suppressing any dissent or opposition. The regime's economic policies were focused heavily on industry and agriculture to make Albania self-sufficient. However, this led to inefficiencies and stagnation, and Albania became one of the poorest countries in Europe. The country was isolated from the rest of the world, and trade was limited. Hoxha's regime was also known for its human rights abuses and suppression of dissent. Anyone who opposed the government or spoke out against its policies was subject to arrest, imprisonment, and even execution. The regime was notorious for its secret police, the Sigurimi, who were responsible for suppressing opposition and dissent. The regime's control over education was also strict, with the curriculum designed to promote communist ideology and loyalty to the state. This limited the opportunities for Albanians to receive a well-rounded education and access information from outside the country. Hoxha's regime lasted for over 4 decades until he died in 1985. During that time, Albania was transformed from a poor rural country into an industrialized nation, but at a great cost to its people. The regime's strict control over every aspect of life, its human rights abuses, and its isolationist policies left a lasting impact on Albania and its people. After Hoxha's death, Albania began to transition towards democracy, and the country has made significant progress since then. Enver Hoxha's regime was marked by extreme isolationism and paranoia, which had a severely felt impact on Albania and its people. Hoxha's government cut off ties with the rest of the world, and the country became increasingly isolated from the international community. This isolation was not only physical, but also cultural and intellectual. The government controlled all aspects of culture, including art, literature, and music, and any work that was deemed subversive or anti-communist was banned. The country's intellectuals and artists were forced to conform to the regime's strict ideological guidelines or face imprisonment or even death. The regime's paranoia was also evident in its obsession with national security and defense. Hoxha believed Albania was constantly threatened by external enemies, and he built a vast network of bunkers and military installations to protect the country. This obsession with defense led to a massive diversion of resources away from essential public services like healthcare and education. The regime's isolationism and paranoia also led to complete control over the media and information. The government controlled all media outlets, and any news or information that was deemed subversive or anti-communist was censored. The country's citizens were kept in a state of ignorance about the outside world, and any attempt to access foreign media or information was strictly prohibited. This also led to complete control over the population. The impact of this isolation on Albania and its people was severely felt. The country was cut off from the rest of the world, and its citizens were denied access to information and ideas. Enver Hoxha's regime was characterized by strict political and social restrictions. The government controlled every aspect of people's lives, and any form of dissent or opposition was not tolerated. Politically, the regime was a one-party state, where the Communist Party was the only legal party. All other political parties or organizations were banned, and anyone who tried to form an opposition party was arrested and imprisoned. The government controlled every aspect of people's lives, from their employment to their housing and even their relationships. The regime's secret police, the Sigurimi, were responsible for suppressing any opposition or dissent, and people lived in constant fear of being denounced or betrayed. The regime also had a strict moral code, which prohibited things like adultery, homosexuality, and other immoral behaviors. Women's rights were also restricted, and they were not allowed to work outside the home or have control over their bodies. The regime's restrictions also extended to the economy. The government controlled all aspects of the economy, and private enterprise was strictly forbidden. The country was subject to strict central planning, and any form of entrepreneurship or innovation was discouraged. The impact of these restrictions on Albania and its people was severely felt. The regime's restrictions also led to a lack of freedom and autonomy for the Albanian people. They were not allowed to make their own choices or decisions, and their lives were controlled by the government. This led to a lack of motivation and initiative, and the country's economy and society suffered as a result. The regime's restrictions also led to a lack of accountability and transparency. The government was not accountable to the people, and there were no independent institutions or checks on its power. Albania has made significant progress in recent years, with a focus on economic growth, infrastructure development, and European integration. According to the World Bank, Albania's economy has grown steadily since 2014, with a GDP growth rate of 4.2% in 2020. One of the key areas of development has been infrastructure. The government has invested heavily in road construction, intending to improve connectivity and reduce travel times. Tourism has also seen significant growth, with a 10% increase in visitor numbers in 2020 compared to the previous year. The government has implemented measures to support the tourism industry, including the development of new tourist infrastructure and the promotion of cultural heritage sites. Albania has also made progress in terms of European integration. The country was granted EU candidate status in 2014 and has since made significant progress in meeting the necessary criteria for membership. However, despite these developments, Albania still faces challenges. According to the World Bank, poverty remains a significant issue, with 14.3% of the population living below the poverty line in 2020. Albania is experiencing a decline in democracy and an increase in authoritarianism, according to a report by Freedom House. The ruling party is consolidating power, limiting political pluralism, and suppressing opposition through tactics like prosecuting political opponents and using public funds to reward loyalists. The media is also subjected to political pressure and intimidation, leading to self-censorship and a lack of critical reporting. Corruption is a significant issue, with many politicians and public officials accused of embezzlement, bribery, and other forms of corruption. A survey by the European Commission found that 71% of Albanians believe corruption is widespread, and 63% believe the government is not doing enough to combat it. The concentration of power has led to a lack of accountability and transparency in government decision-making, with a small elite holding political and economic power. The Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, has characterized Albania's political landscape as a captured state. Albania's journey to democracy has been challenging due to its complex history. Its legacy of outside influence, combined with decades of isolation and repression under a harsh regime, has made it difficult for Albania to transition to a stable democracy. As a result, Albania has been labeled as the North Korea of Europe. If you enjoyed watching this video, please like and share it. And don't forget to subscribe.